Close your eyes and imagine looking at your hand in the soft lamplight. You see familiar skin. Gentle curves. The lines that make you uniquely you. But this is only the surface of a much deeper story. Beneath what you can see lies a universe so vast it defies imagination. Right now, as you breathe quietly in this moment, trillions of living beings call your body home. They are so small that millions could dance on the head of a pin. Yet together, they outnumber your own human cells by 10 to 1. You are not alone. You have never been alone. You are a walking, breathing planet to these microscopic travelers. These tiny residents have names that sound like poetry. Lactobacillus. Bifidobacterium. Bacteroids. Each one carries its own story. Its own purpose. Its own ancient wisdom about how to live and thrive in the warm darkness of your body. Think of your body as a vast landscape. Mountains of bone rise beneath valleys of muscle. Rivers of blood flow through forests of organs. And in every corner of this inner world, bacterial communities have made their homes. They cluster on your skin like morning dew on grass. They swim in gentle currents through your mouth. They build cities in the winding passages of your intestines. Scientists call this hidden world your microbiome. The word itself feels soft on your tongue. Micro means small. Biome means a living community. Together, they describe the invisible ecosystem that you carry with you everywhere you go. Your microbiome weighs about 3 pounds. The same as your brain. This is not a coincidence. As you will discover, these two parts of you speak to each other constantly. They share secrets. They influence each other's moods. They work together in ways that science is only beginning to understand. Every person's microbiome is as unique as their fingerprint. The bacteria living in your body right now are different from those living in your best friend's body. Or your mother's body. Or anyone else's on Earth. You are host to a collection of life that has never existed before and will never exist again. These microscopic beings are not visitors. They are not intruders. They are partners in the grand experiment of being you. They help digest your food. They guard against harmful invaders. They create vitamins your body needs to stay healthy. And in ways both mysterious and beautiful, they help shape your thoughts and feelings. Right now, as you rest here in the quiet, bacteria in your gut are busy making chemicals. Some of these chemicals travel up to your brain. Others flow through your bloodstream to distant organs. Each molecule carries messages. Instructions. Gentle suggestions about how you might feel in this moment. When you feel happy after a good meal, your bacteria may be part of that joy. When you feel calm during a peaceful evening, they may be contributing to that serenity. When anxiety visits you like an unexpected storm, your bacterial partners may be trying to help you weather it. This invisible world operates on a different scale of time than your conscious mind. While you think in minutes and hours, your bacteria live in seconds and milliseconds. They reproduce in 20 minutes. They adapt to changes almost instantly. They respond to your emotions, your stress, your diet, your sleep with a speed that amazes scientists. Imagine if you could shrink down to bacterial size and walk through your own body. You would find neighborhoods as different as desert and rainforest. In your mouth, bacteria cling to surfaces like mountain climbers on cliff faces. In your stomach, hardy species survive in acid that would dissolve metal. In your small intestine, communities work together like farmers tending careful crops. But it is in your large intestine where the real magic happens. Here, in the final stretch of your digestive system, lives the largest concentration of bacteria in your body. This is their capital city. Their headquarters. The place where they gather in numbers so vast they create their own weather systems. These bacterial citizens communicate with each other constantly. They send chemical signals like text messages. They share resources like neighbors sharing tools. They warn each other of dangers like town criers calling out news. They form alliances and partnerships that can last for years. And they are listening to you. Every choice you make sends ripples through their microscopic world. The food you eat becomes their food. The emotions you feel change the chemistry of their environment. The medicines you take reshape their communities. The stress you carry alters their behavior. You might wonder how something so small could matter so much. The answer lies in their numbers. A single bacterium is tiny and fragile. But trillions of bacteria working together become a force that can influence your entire body. They are like individual notes that combine to create a symphony you feel but cannot hear. As you prepare to drift into sleep tonight, know that your bacterial partners are still awake. They work in shifts around the clock. Some are busy breaking down your dinner. Others are standing guard against harmful microbes. Still others are producing the very chemicals that help you feel relaxed and ready for rest. Tomorrow, when you wake, they will have changed. Some will have multiplied. Others will have moved to new locations. A few will have completed their life cycles and returned to the elements. Your microbiome is not a fixed thing. It is a living, breathing, ever-changing community that grows and shifts with every passing moment. In the chapters that follow, you will learn how these microscopic partners first came to live within you. You will discover the intricate ways they communicate with your brain and influence your moods. And you will understand how to nurture this relationship for a lifetime of wellness and balance. But for now, rest in the knowledge that you are never alone. As you close your eyes and let sleep begin to take you, imagine the gentle activity continuing in the darkness of your body. Trillions of tiny lives working together. Creating harmony. Maintaining balance. Keeping you whole. And perhaps, in your dreams tonight, you will sense their presence. The quiet hum of life within life. The ancient partnership that makes you wonderfully, uniquely, completely you. Before you took your first breath, you lived in perfect stillness. In the warm ocean of your mother's womb, you floated in a world almost free of bacteria. The amniotic fluid that surrounded you was clean and clear. Your skin was smooth and empty of the microscopic life that would soon call it home. You were alone in a way you would never be again. But the moment you began your journey into the world, everything changed. As you moved through the birth canal, you encountered your first bacterial neighbors. They lived quietly in your mother's body, waiting for this exact moment. These ancient microbes had been preparing for your arrival long before you knew you were coming. Think of it like the first day of spring after a long winter. The earth lies quiet and bare. Then suddenly, warmth arrives and life explodes everywhere at once. Seeds that waited in darkness begin to sprout. Flowers push through soil. Birds return from distant places. The world transforms in what feels like an instant. This is what happened to you in those first moments of life. Your skin, fresh and new, became fertile ground for bacterial pioneers. They arrived like settlers to an untouched land, each species finding its perfect place to build a new home. The bacteria from your mother were your inheritance. Not money or treasures, but something far more valuable. Living gifts that would protect and guide you for the rest of your life. These microbes carried wisdom learned over millions of years. They knew how to survive. How to thrive. How to work together with a human body. Your first breath brought even more bacterial visitors. They rode on particles of air like tiny travelers on invisible ships. Some came from your mother's skin as she held you close. Others arrived from the hands of doctors and nurses. Each contact, each breath, each gentle touch added new members to your growing microbial family. If you were born by caesarean section, your bacterial story began a little differently. Instead of meeting your mother's birth canal bacteria first, you encountered the microbes living on hospital surfaces and human hands. These bacteria were different but equally eager to make you their home. Within hours, they began to multiply and spread across your tiny body. Your mouth became the first thriving neighborhood. Bacteria settled on your tongue like morning dew on grass. They found cozy spaces between your gums and your not yet formed teeth. Every time you cried or yawned or made those soft baby sounds, you invited more bacterial visitors to join the growing community. Your skin told its own colonization story. Bacteria discovered the warm folds of your neck and the gentle creases of your arms. They gathered in the protected valleys behind your ears. Each square inch of your body became a different environment, attracting different types of bacterial settlers. Some bacteria preferred the oily areas around your nose and forehead. Others thrived in the drier regions of your arms and legs. Still others made homes in the moist, warm spaces between your fingers and toes. Like people choosing neighborhoods based on climate and landscape, bacteria selected locations that matched their needs perfectly. Your digestive system remained mostly empty at first. But as you began to drink milk, whether from your mother or a bottle, bacteria began their journey inward. They traveled down your throat like explorers following a new river. They discovered the acidic lake of your stomach. They ventured into the winding passages of your intestines. Breast milk brought special bacterial gifts. Your mother's milk contained not just food for you, but food for specific bacteria she wanted to share. Scientists call these special nutrients prebiotics. They are like seeds that help good bacteria grow strong and multiply quickly. The bacteria in breast milk were chosen carefully by millions of years of evolution. They knew how to protect a baby's delicate digestive system. They could fight off harmful microbes that might make you sick. They help break down milk into nutrients your tiny body could use. If you drank formula instead, different bacteria found their way to you. They came from the water used to mix the formula, from the bottles and nipples that fed you, from the air in your home. These bacteria were not better or worse than those in breast milk, just different. Your body learned to work with whatever bacterial partners arrived first. Week by week, your bacterial population grew. What started as a few hundred microbes multiplied into thousands, then millions, then billions. Each species found its preferred habitat and began to reproduce. They formed neighborhoods and communities. They started talking to each other through chemical signals. By your first birthday, you carried trillions of bacteria. Your microbiome had grown from nothing to rival the complexity of a rainforest. Different species lived in harmony most of the time, sharing resources and space. They had learned the geography of your body as intimately as you would later learn the rooms of your childhood home. These first bacterial colonists shaped not just your digestive system, but your entire immune system. They taught your body's defenses which microbes were friends and which were potential threats. They helped train the soldiers of your immune system to be strong but not overly aggressive. Your early bacterial partners also began the long process of learning to communicate with your developing brain. Even as a baby, the bacteria in your gut were sending chemical messages upward through your body. These signals influenced how you felt, how you slept, even how you responded to being held and comforted. The bacteria that colonized you in those first months became the foundation of your lifelong microbiome. Some of their descendants still live in your body today. They have been your constant companions through every birthday, every move to a new home, every major change in your life. As you grew from baby to child to teenager to adult, new bacteria joined your microbial community. But those first colonists remained special. They were the pioneers who claimed you as their territory when you were brand new. They shaped the environment that all future bacterial residents would have to adapt to. Scientists now know that these early bacterial encounters influence your health for decades to come. The microbes you met in your first year of life helped determine how well your immune system would work. They influenced your risk for allergies and infections. They even affected how your body would respond to different foods as you grew older. Tonight, as you rest in the quiet darkness, imagine those first moments when you were not yet you as you know yourself now. You were becoming you through the gentle colonization of bacterial life. Each microbe that made you its home added something to the complex symphony of your existence. And in the morning light of tomorrow's chapter, we will follow these bacterial pioneers deeper into your body, to the place where they would build their greatest cities and work their most profound magic on your health and happiness. Deep within your belly lies a secret garden more vast and complex than any you could imagine. If you could unfold your intestines and stretch them out in a straight line, they would reach 25 feet. That is longer than a school bus. Wider than most bedrooms. A winding, soft-walled universe hidden in the gentle curve of your abdomen. This is where your bacterial partners have built their greatest cities. Where they tend their most important crops. Where they work their quiet magic on your health and happiness every moment of every day. Picture walking through an enchanted forest at twilight. Ancient trees rise on either side, their branches creating a canopy of green shadows above you. Moss carpets the forest floor in soft, living velvet. Streams trickle between rocks, carrying nutrients to distant meadows. Every surface teems with life you can sense but cannot see. Your intestinal garden feels much like this magical forest. The walls are not rough bark but gentle, folded tissue that looks like velvet under a microscope. These folds, called villi, create millions of tiny valleys and hills. Each fold increases the surface area where bacteria can make their homes. If you could flatten out all these folds, they would cover an area the size of a tennis court. The bacterial gardeners who live here are not random visitors. They are specialists. Master farmers who have learned over millions of years how to turn the food you eat into nutrients your body can use. They break down fibers that your own digestive system cannot handle. They create vitamins that your cells need to stay healthy. They produce compounds that travel through your bloodstream to distant parts of your body, including your brain. In the upper regions of your small intestine, where your stomach empties its contents, hardy bacteria work in more acidic conditions. They are like mountain dwellers who thrive in harsh climates. These bacteria help break down proteins and absorb minerals from your food. They work quickly because food does not stay in this region very long. As you travel deeper into your intestinal garden, the environment becomes more hospitable. The pH becomes less acidic. The pace slows down. Food has more time to be thoroughly processed. Here, different bacterial communities have evolved to take advantage of these gentler conditions. The small intestine bacteria are organized like a well-planned city. Some species live right against the intestinal wall, forming a protective barrier. Others float freely in the liquid center, like boats on a calm river. Still others attach themselves to particles of food as they flow by, riding these floating islands while they work. But it is in your large intestine, your colon, where the real magic happens. This is the downtown of your bacterial world. The population center where the most diverse and numerous communities thrive. If your small intestine is like a peaceful suburb, your colon is like a bustling metropolis. Here, bacteria live in concentration so dense they create their own weather systems. Billions of bacteria per teaspoon of intestinal contents. They form layers upon layers, like apartment buildings reaching toward the intestinal ceiling. The bacteria on the bottom live different lives than those on the top. Some need oxygen. Others cannot survive in its presence. Together, they create a complex ecosystem that scientists are still working to understand. Different neighborhoods in your colon support different bacterial communities. Near the beginning, where your small intestine connects, bacteria still have access to simpler nutrients that were not absorbed earlier. These bacteria are like the residents of an upscale district, with easy access to premium resources. Further along, as nutrients become scarcer, bacteria become more resourceful. They learn to eat what others have left behind. They cooperate more closely, sharing the products of their digestion with their neighbors. They form partnerships that benefit everyone in the community. At the far end of your colon, where waste prepares to leave your body, bacteria face the greatest challenges. Resources are limited. The environment is more variable. Only the hardiest and most cooperative bacteria survive here. They are like the pioneers on the frontier, making the best of difficult conditions. Throughout this entire 25-foot garden, bacteria communicate constantly. They send chemical signals to each other like neighbors calling across garden fences. They warn of dangers. They share information about food sources. They coordinate their activities so that the entire community works in harmony. Some bacteria specialize in breaking down fiber from vegetables and fruits. They are like composters, turning plant matter into rich soil that feeds other members of the community. As they work, they produce short-chain fatty acids. These molecules are precious gifts to your body. They feed the cells lining your intestinal walls. They reduce inflammation. They help maintain the delicate balance that keeps harmful bacteria from taking over. Other bacteria focus on producing vitamins. They are like master chemists working in tiny laboratories. They create vitamin K, which helps your blood clot when you get a cut. They produce B vitamins that give you energy and keep your nervous system healthy. They make compounds that support your immune system and help regulate your mood. The bacterial gardeners in your gut also serve as your body's security force. They occupy all the good real estate, leaving no room for harmful bacteria to set up shop. They produce natural antibiotics that kill dangerous invaders. They train your immune system to recognize friend from foe. They are like wise guardians who have been protecting you since your earliest days. Your intestinal garden changes with the seasons of your life. What you eat determines which bacteria thrive and which struggle. Stress alters the chemical environment, causing some communities to shrink while others expand. Antibiotics can temporarily clear large areas, like a forest fire that allows new growth to emerge. Sleep patterns, exercise habits, and even your emotional state all influence the delicate balance of this hidden ecosystem. When your bacterial garden is healthy and diverse, you feel the benefits throughout your entire body. Your digestion works smoothly. Your energy levels stay steady. Your immune system responds appropriately to threats without overreacting to harmless substances. Even your mood tends to be more stable and positive. But when something disrupts this garden, when certain bacteria multiply too quickly or beneficial species decline, the effects ripple outward. Digestion becomes uncomfortable. Energy flags. The immune system may become confused or overactive. And in ways that scientists are still discovering, your emotional well-being can shift like weather changing from sunny to stormy. The remarkable thing about your intestinal garden is that it never sleeps. While you rest peacefully through the night, bacterial gardeners continue their work in the gentle darkness of your belly. They process the remnants of your evening meal. They maintain the infrastructure of their communities. They produce the compounds that will influence how you feel when you wake. Right now, as you breathe slowly and let relaxation wash over you, imagine this secret garden thriving quietly within you. Picture the bacterial communities working in harmony, each species playing its part in the complex symphony of your health. And as sleep begins to call to you, know that tomorrow we will explore the most amazing discovery of all, how these tiny gardeners in your belly have learned to speak directly to the command center of your thoughts and emotions. There is a conversation happening inside you right now. It flows like a quiet river between two distant shores. One shore is the 3-pound universe behind your eyes, where thoughts bloom like flowers and memories drift like clouds. The other shore is the bacterial garden in your belly, where trillions of microbes tend their microscopic cities in the warm darkness below your ribs. This conversation never stops. It flows upward and downward through pathways that science has only recently begun to map. Your gut speaks to your brain. Your brain responds to your gut. And in the space between these messages, your emotions are born, shaped, and transformed in ways that would have seemed impossible just a few decades ago. Scientists call this connection the gut-brain axis. But the name feels too clinical for something so intimate and profound. Think of it instead as the body's most ancient telephone system. A network that has been carrying messages between your belly and your mind since the very first day you drew breath. The main highway of this system is a nerve called the vagus. Vagus means wandering in Latin, and this nerve truly wanders through your body like a gentle river seeking the sea. It begins in your brainstem, winds down through your neck, spreads across your chest, and finally reaches deep into your abdomen where it branches into thousands of smaller tributaries. The vagus nerve is like a 2-lane highway with traffic flowing in both directions. About 80% of the messages travel upward, from your gut to your brain. Only 20% flow downward, from your brain to your gut. This means your belly has far more to say to your mind than your mind has to say to your belly. Right now, as you rest in this quiet moment, your vagus nerve is carrying messages upward from your intestinal garden. Some of these messages report on the basic mechanics of digestion. How much food remains to be processed? Whether harmful bacteria have been detected. How well the bacterial communities are cooperating with each other. But other messages are more subtle and far more interesting. They carry information about the emotional chemistry your bacteria are creating. The compounds they produce as they go about their daily work. The signals they send when they encounter stress or feel content. These messages travel up the vagus nerve like whispered secrets, arriving at your brain where they influence how you feel without your conscious mind ever knowing they made the journey. Your bacterial partners have learned to speak the language of your nervous system. They produce the same chemical messengers that your brain cells use to communicate with each other. Serotonin, the molecule often called the happiness chemical, is made primarily in your gut, not your brain. 90% of your body's serotonin is produced by bacteria and special cells in your intestinal walls. When your gut bacteria are healthy and diverse, they tend to produce more of these mood-lifting compounds. The messages flowing up your vagus nerve carry news of bacterial contentment, chemical balance, and digestive harmony. Your brain receives these reports and translates them into feelings of well-being, satisfaction, and calm. But the conversation is more complex than simple chemical messaging. Your gut contains more nerve cells than your spinal cord. Scientists sometimes call it your second brain, though it does not think in the way your head brain thinks. Instead, it processes information about your internal environment and sends summaries upward to the command center behind your eyes. This gut brain processes the chemical signatures of everything that passes through your digestive system. It monitors the pH levels in different regions. It tracks the population dynamics of bacterial communities. It senses inflammation and responds to stress hormones that flow down from your brain when you feel anxious or overwhelmed. Your bacteria have become master chemists, learning to influence this second brain through the compounds they produce. Some bacterial species specialize in creating calming chemicals that help reduce anxiety. Others produce energizing molecules that can lift your mood when you feel sluggish or sad. Still others make compounds that help regulate your sleep cycles, working like tiny pharmacists in the pharmacy of your belly. The timing of these bacterial conversations follows rhythms you can feel but rarely notice. Your gut bacteria have their own circadian clocks, internal timekeepers that help them coordinate their activities with your daily cycles of waking and sleeping. They produce different chemicals at different times of day, sending messages that help maintain your natural rhythms. In the morning, certain bacteria increase production of energizing compounds, helping you feel alert and ready for the day ahead. As evening approaches, other bacterial communities shift their chemistry toward molecules that promote relaxation and prepare your body for rest. This bacterial timekeeping helps explain why disrupted sleep can affect your digestion, and why digestive problems can interfere with your sleep. Stress creates its own unique patterns in this gut-brain conversation. When you feel worried or overwhelmed, your brain sends signals down the vagus nerve that change the environment in your intestinal garden. The chemistry shifts. Some bacterial populations grow while others shrink. The messages flowing back up to your brain reflect these changes, sometimes creating a cycle where stress in your mind creates bacterial stress in your gut, which sends stress signals back to your mind. But the system also has built-in mechanisms for healing and balance. When you feel safe and relaxed, your vagus nerve sends different signals downward. The bacterial communities respond by producing more compounds that support digestive health and emotional well-being. It is like a garden that blooms more beautifully when tended with patience and care. Your breathing plays a special role in this conversation. Deep, slow breaths activate your vagus nerve, improving the quality of communication between your gut and brain. Each peaceful breath you take right now is like turning up the volume on this internal dialogue, allowing the messages to flow more clearly in both directions. Food becomes part of the conversation too. Different nutrients feed different bacterial communities, changing the chemical messages they produce. A meal rich in fiber feeds bacteria that produce calming compounds. Processed foods with artificial additives can disrupt the bacterial communities, leading to inflammatory messages that travel up the vagus nerve and influence your mood. The remarkable thing about this gut-brain axis is how quickly it can change. Unlike many other systems in your body that respond slowly to new conditions, the bacterial communities in your gut can shift their chemistry within hours. A single meal can alter the messages flowing to your brain. A stressful day can change the bacterial conversation by evening. This responsiveness means you have more influence over your emotional well-being than you might imagine. The choices you make about food, sleep, stress management, and even breathing can directly affect the bacterial communities that are constantly sending messages to your brain. Scientists are discovering that many conditions once thought to originate purely in the brain may actually involve this gut-brain conversation. Depression, anxiety, and even some aspects of personality appear to be influenced by the chemical messages flowing upward from your bacterial partners. As you lie here in the gentle quiet of this moment, imagine this conversation continuing in the background of your awareness. Your gut bacteria are working in their microscopic laboratories, producing compounds that will influence your dreams tonight and your mood tomorrow morning. Your vagus nerve is carrying their messages upward like a faithful postal service that never sleeps. The dialogue between your mind and your belly is ancient, personal, and continuously unfolding. It connects the most primitive parts of your biology with the most sophisticated regions of your consciousness. And in the soft chemistry of this connection, we begin to understand how these tiny bacterial partners have learned to craft the very molecules that create the symphony of your emotions. In the quiet cathedral of your belly, something magical is happening right now. Bacterial chemists no bigger than specks of dust are working with the precision of master jewelers. They take simple ingredients from your food and transform them into molecules that can change how you feel, how you think, and how peacefully you sleep. These microscopic architects are crafting the very chemicals your brain uses to create emotions. They work without blueprints, guided only by ancient wisdom coded in their DNA. Each bacterium carries recipes passed down through millions of generations, formulas for happiness and calm that predate human civilization by countless ages. The most famous of these bacterial creations is serotonin. You may know it as the happiness chemical, the molecule that antidepressant medications try to preserve in your brain. But here is a secret that might surprise you: most of your body's serotonin is not made in your brain at all. It blooms like wildflowers in the bacterial gardens of your gut. 90% of your serotonin comes from your intestinal world. Bacteria species like Enterococcus and Streptococcus work alongside special cells in your intestinal walls, transforming an amino acid called tryptophan into this precious molecule of well-being. They are like farmers who plant seeds of contentment and harvest feelings of satisfaction. Imagine these bacteria as tiny florists, each one tending its own microscopic flower garden. When they have the right nutrients and a healthy environment, they produce abundant bouquets of serotonin. These molecular flowers are then picked up by your bloodstream and carried throughout your body like wedding petals scattered on the wind. Serotonin does far more than simply make you feel happy. It helps regulate your appetite, telling you when you have eaten enough. It influences your sleep cycles, helping your body know when to feel drowsy and when to feel alert. It affects how your gut muscles contract, keeping your digestion flowing smoothly like a gentle river. But serotonin is just one star in the chemical constellation your bacteria create. Another precious molecule they craft is called GABA. This compound has a name that sounds clinical, but its effects feel like the softest lullaby. GABA is your brain's main calming chemical, the molecular equivalent of a warm embrace on a difficult day. When your bacterial chemists produce GABA, they are essentially brewing tranquility in microscopic laboratories. This molecule travels through your body like liquid peace, helping to quiet the chatter in your mind and ease the tension in your muscles. It is the chemical that helps you transition from the busy energy of day into the restful surrender of night. Certain bacteria specialize in GABA production. Lactobacillus species are particularly gifted at this molecular alchemy. They take glutamate, an amino acid that can make your brain feel excited and scattered, and transform it into GABA, which does exactly the opposite. It is like watching a skilled artist turn sharp, jagged lines into soft, flowing curves. Your bacterial partners also create dopamine, the molecule of motivation and reward. When you feel the satisfaction of completing a task or the pleasure of eating something delicious, dopamine is often involved. Some of your gut bacteria can produce this chemical, sending messages of accomplishment and joy through your nervous system. The bacteria in your gut are not randomly creating these compounds. They respond to the conditions around them like musicians responding to a conductor. When your intestinal environment is healthy and balanced, they produce more of the calming, happiness-promoting chemicals. When stress hormones flood your system or inflammatory substances appear, their chemical production shifts accordingly. Stress creates a particularly interesting change in bacterial chemistry. When your brain sends stress signals down to your gut, some bacteria reduce their production of serotonin and GABA. Others begin making different compounds, including some that can increase inflammation and anxiety. It is as if the bacterial chemists receive an urgent message to change their formulas, shifting from brewing calm to preparing for crisis. But your bacteria are not just passive responders to your emotional state. They actively influence how you feel through the chemicals they choose to make. When beneficial bacteria like Bifidobacterium are thriving in your gut, they produce compounds that can reduce anxiety and improve mood. They are like wise counselors, quietly working to restore balance when they sense emotional turmoil. The food you eat becomes the raw material for these bacterial factories. When you consume foods rich in tryptophan, like turkey or pumpkin seeds, you provide more building blocks for serotonin production. When you eat foods containing glutamine, like bone broth or fermented vegetables, you support GABA creation. Fiber plays a special role in this chemical symphony. When you eat vegetables, fruits, and whole grains, the fiber feeds specific bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids. These fatty acids do not directly affect your mood, but they create an environment where mood-supporting bacteria can thrive. They are like gardeners preparing the soil so that the most beautiful flowers can grow. Your bacterial chemists work in shifts around the clock, but their production follows natural rhythms. Some create more energizing compounds during the day when you need to feel alert and focused. Others increase their production of calming chemicals as evening approaches, helping your body prepare for rest. The remarkable precision of this system becomes clear when you consider that each type of bacterium produces slightly different versions of these mood molecules. Some create serotonin that acts quickly but briefly. Others make versions that work more slowly but last longer. Together, they create a complex chemical symphony that supports both immediate emotional needs and long-term mental well-being. Recent research has revealed that your bacterial chemists can even influence your social emotions. Some produce compounds that affect oxytocin, the hormone associated with bonding and trust. Others create chemicals that influence how you respond to social stress or how confident you feel in groups of people. This means that the bacterial communities in your gut may be quietly shaping not just how you feel alone, but how you connect with others. They are invisible participants in your relationships, producing compounds that influence your capacity for empathy, your tolerance for social situations, and your ability to feel connected to the people around you. As you rest here in this peaceful moment, imagine these bacterial chemists at work in the warm darkness of your belly. Picture them in their microscopic laboratories, carefully crafting molecules of calm and contentment. Each compound they create is like a tiny gift, a chemical love letter written in the ancient language of biology. The serotonin they produce may be contributing to the sense of peace you feel right now. The GABA they craft could be helping your muscles relax and your breathing slow. The dopamine they create might be supporting the quiet satisfaction of ending your day with learning and rest. Tomorrow, we will discover what happens when the delicate balance of these chemical messengers is disrupted, and how your bacterial partners respond when the storms of stress challenge their peaceful work. Imagine a peaceful forest on a quiet morning. Birds sing softly in the branches. Streams trickle between moss-covered stones. Every creature goes about its daily work in gentle harmony. Then, somewhere in the distance, thunder begins to rumble. The birds fall silent. Small animals freeze and listen. The entire forest holds its breath, sensing that change is coming. This is what happens in the bacterial forest of your gut when stress arrives in your life. Your microscopic partners are incredibly sensitive to the chemical weather patterns that flow through your body. Long before you consciously recognize that you are feeling overwhelmed, your bacteria have already begun to respond to the approaching storm. When your brain perceives stress, whether from a difficult conversation, a looming deadline, or simply the accumulated weight of a challenging day, it releases a cascade of chemical messengers. Cortisol, the primary stress hormone, flows through your bloodstream like rain clouds gathering across a summer sky. Adrenaline follows, sharp and electric as lightning. These stress chemicals travel throughout your body, but they have a particularly powerful effect on your intestinal world. Your bacteria do not experience stress the way you do, with racing thoughts and tight shoulders. Instead, they respond to the changing chemistry around them, like plants responding to shifts in sunlight and soil conditions. The first change happens in the environment itself. Stress hormones alter the pH balance in your gut, making some regions more acidic. They change the flow of digestive juices and the rhythm of intestinal contractions. They affect the production of mucus that protects your intestinal walls. It is as if the weather in your bacterial world suddenly shifts from spring to winter in a matter of minutes. Your bacterial communities respond to these changes with remarkable speed and coordination. Some species that thrive in calm conditions begin to reduce their activity, like flowers closing their petals before a storm. Others, particularly those adapted to harsh environments, may increase their reproduction, preparing for difficult times ahead. The bacterial chemists we met in the previous chapter adjust their formulas accordingly. Those peaceful producers of serotonin and GABA may reduce their output, conserving resources for survival rather than mood enhancement. It is as if the molecular florists in your gut decide to stop tending their gardens of happiness and focus instead on weathering the approaching storm. Meanwhile, other bacteria begin producing different compounds altogether. Some release inflammatory molecules, preparing your body's immune system for potential threats. Others create chemicals that increase gut permeability, allowing more substances to pass through your intestinal walls. These changes happen for good evolutionary reasons, but they can intensify the feelings of stress and anxiety you experience. The conversation between your brain and gut becomes more urgent during stressful times. Your vagus nerve, usually carrying gentle messages back and forth, now pulses with more intense communications. Your brain sends stress signals downward while your gut sends reports of chemical chaos upward. This creates a feedback loop where stress in your mind increases bacterial stress in your gut, which then sends more stress signals back to your mind. But your bacterial partners are not simply victims of stress. They are active participants in helping you cope with challenging situations. Some bacteria produce compounds that can actually help regulate your stress response, preventing it from becoming overwhelming. They create molecules that support your adrenal glands and help maintain blood sugar stability during difficult times. Certain bacterial species seem particularly gifted at stress management. Lactobacillus helveticus and Bifidobacterium longum have been found to produce compounds that can reduce anxiety and improve stress resilience. They are like wise counselors in your bacterial community, working to restore balance when emotional storms threaten to overwhelm the ecosystem. The timing of stress matters greatly to your bacterial partners. Short bursts of stress, like the kind you might experience during exercise or a challenging but manageable task, often stimulate beneficial bacterial activity. Your microbes respond to these brief challenges by increasing their production of helpful compounds, as if they understand that temporary stress can lead to growth and adaptation. Chronic stress tells a different story. When stress hormones remain elevated for days, weeks, or months, your bacterial communities begin to show signs of fatigue. Beneficial species may decline in number while others that thrive in inflammatory conditions begin to multiply. The delicate balance that supports optimal mood and digestion slowly shifts toward a state that scientists call dysbiosis. During chronic stress, the bacterial gardens in your gut begin to look less like diverse, thriving ecosystems and more like struggling monocultures. A few hardy species dominate while many others retreat or disappear entirely. This reduced diversity affects the range of beneficial compounds your bacteria can produce, limiting their ability to support your emotional well-being. Your breathing becomes an important part of this stress response symphony. When you breathe quickly and shallowly during anxious moments, you activate your sympathetic nervous system, which sends more stress signals to your gut. But when you breathe slowly and deeply, you stimulate your vagus nerve, sending calming messages downward to your bacterial communities. Right now, as you practice slow, peaceful breathing, you are literally changing the chemical environment in your gut. Each deep breath activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the branch responsible for rest and digestion. Your bacteria sense this shift and begin to adjust their chemistry accordingly, increasing production of calming compounds and reducing inflammatory responses. Sleep plays a crucial role in this bacterial stress response system. During restful sleep, your body produces growth hormone and other repair chemicals that help restore balance to your gut ecosystem. Your bacteria use this quiet time to rebuild their communities, reproduce beneficial species, and clear away the chemical debris left behind by stressful days. Poor sleep creates its own form of stress for your bacterial partners. Without adequate rest, your body continues producing stress hormones, keeping your gut bacteria in a state of alert readiness when they need time to recover and restore balance. This sleep-stress bacteria cycle can perpetuate itself, making both good sleep and emotional balance harder to achieve. The remarkable thing about your bacterial stress response system is its capacity for recovery. Unlike some aspects of stress that can take weeks or months to heal, your gut bacteria can begin shifting back toward balance within hours of stress reduction. A single restful evening, a nourishing meal, or even a few minutes of deep breathing can start the process of bacterial recovery. Your bacterial partners remember stressful periods and learn from them. Bacteria that survive challenging times may pass genetic information to their offspring, creating communities that are better adapted to handle future stress. In this way, your microbiome becomes more resilient over time, developing strategies to maintain balance even during difficult periods. As you rest here in this moment of calm, imagine your bacterial communities beginning to settle back into their peaceful rhythms. The stress chemicals in your system are gradually clearing, like storm clouds drifting away to reveal clear sky. Your bacteria sense this shift and slowly return to their work of producing the molecules that support your well-being. Tomorrow, we will explore how the food you choose becomes part of this delicate conversation, and how your daily meals can either support your bacterial partners through stressful times or add to their burden. Imagine sitting down to your evening meal with an invisible guest at your table. This guest does not speak with words, but listens carefully to every choice you make. Each bite you take becomes a message. Each flavor you savor becomes part of a conversation that will influence how you feel tomorrow morning, how well you sleep tonight, and how balanced your emotions remain in the days to come. This invisible guest is the collective voice of your bacterial community. And the language you speak together is food. Every time you lift your fork, you are essentially writing a letter to the trillions of bacteria living in your gut. The nutrients you choose become the ink. The combinations you create become the sentences. And your bacterial partners read every word with the attention of scholars studying ancient texts. Different foods speak to different bacterial communities, like different languages calling to various ethnic neighborhoods in a diverse city. When you eat an apple, you are speaking directly to bacteria that specialize in breaking down fruit fibers. When you choose a piece of chocolate, you send messages to entirely different microbial populations. Each food creates its own unique conversation in the warm darkness of your belly. Fiber becomes the most eloquent language in this bacterial conversation. When you eat vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and legumes, you are essentially feeding your mood-supporting bacteria their favorite foods. These plant fibers pass through your small intestine largely untouched, arriving in your colon like care packages delivered to a grateful community. Your fiber-loving bacteria receive these packages with something that resembles joy, if bacteria can experience such emotions. Species like Bifidobacterium and Fecalibacterium prausnitzii feast on these plant fibers, breaking them down into short-chain fatty acids. These compounds become like love letters to your intestinal walls, reducing inflammation and creating the perfect environment for serotonin production. Think of fiber as the preferred currency in your bacterial economy. When you provide plenty of it, the beneficial bacteria in your gut can afford to produce more of the mood-supporting chemicals we explored earlier. They work harder, reproduce more successfully, and create a more stable, happiness-promoting environment in your digestive system. Different types of fiber speak to different bacterial dialects. The pectin in apples and pears has conversations with certain bacteria that the cellulose in leafy greens cannot have. The resistant starch in cooled potatoes and green bananas whispers to bacterial communities that fresh bread cannot reach. This diversity of fiber type supports a more diverse bacterial ecosystem, which in turn produces a richer symphony of mood-supporting compounds. Sugar tells a different story in this bacterial language. When you consume simple sugars, particularly in processed foods and sweetened beverages, you are essentially shouting to bacteria that live in the earlier parts of your digestive system. These bacteria hear the sugar message loud and clear, often multiplying rapidly in response to this easily accessible food source. But sugar's conversation with your bacteria tends to be brief and intense rather than sustained and nourishing. Unlike fiber, which provides long-lasting sustenance to mood-supporting bacteria, sugar offers quick energy that gets absorbed before it can reach the bacterial communities in your colon where most of your serotonin is produced. When sugar dominates your bacterial conversations, it can crowd out the voices of fiber-loving bacteria. Species that thrive on simple sugars may multiply while those that prefer complex carbohydrates decline. This shift in bacterial population can reduce the production of mood-supporting compounds, potentially leaving you feeling less emotionally stable and more prone to mood swings. Protein adds its own vocabulary to this bacterial conversation. When you eat meat, fish, eggs, or plant-based proteins, you provide amino acids that some bacteria can transform into neurotransmitters. The tryptophan in turkey becomes building blocks for serotonin. The tyrosine in almonds can be converted into dopamine by certain bacterial species. But protein requires careful translation by your bacterial partners. Too much can lead to the production of compounds that increase inflammation and disrupt the delicate balance of your gut ecosystem. Too little can limit the raw materials available for neurotransmitter production. Your bacteria work constantly to find the right balance, like skilled translators working to convey meaning across different languages. Fermented foods speak perhaps the most ancient language in this bacterial conversation. When you eat yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, or other fermented foods, you are introducing new bacterial voices to your internal community. These foods carry living bacteria that can join the conversation already happening in your gut. Think of fermented foods as bringing foreign ambassadors to a diplomatic meeting. These bacterial newcomers carry their own wisdom, their own chemical-producing capabilities, and their own ways of communicating with your nervous system. Some may establish permanent residence in your gut. Others visit briefly, sharing their knowledge before moving on. The timing of your meals becomes part of this bacterial language as well. Your gut bacteria follow circadian rhythms just as your brain does. They expect certain nutrients at certain times of day. When you eat late at night or skip meals entirely, you disrupt these bacterial rhythms, creating confusion in the chemical messages they send to your brain. Regular meal timing helps maintain the natural conversation patterns between you and your bacterial partners. When they can predict when food will arrive, they can better coordinate their chemical production to support your energy levels during the day and your relaxation response in the evening. The temperature of your food even carries meaning in this bacterial conversation. Cold foods slow down bacterial activity temporarily, while warm foods can stimulate it. The spices you choose add their own chemical messages. Turmeric speaks the language of anti-inflammation. Ginger converses with bacteria that support digestion. Garlic communicates antimicrobial strength that can help maintain bacterial balance. Your bacterial partners also respond to the emotions surrounding your meals. When you eat in a rushed, stressed state, your body produces stress hormones that change the chemical environment in your gut. Your bacteria sense this tension and may adjust their activities accordingly. When you eat slowly and mindfully, creating a calm environment for digestion, your bacteria can focus more energy on producing mood-supporting compounds. The remarkable thing about this food-bacteria conversation is how quickly it can change. Within hours of eating a fiber-rich meal, beneficial bacteria begin increasing their production of helpful compounds. Within days of changing your dietary patterns, you can start to shift the entire bacterial ecosystem in your gut. This means you have more control over your bacterial partners and their mood-supporting activities than you might have imagined. Each meal is an opportunity to send messages of support and nourishment to the communities that work constantly to maintain your emotional well-being. Your bacterial partners remember these food conversations over time. When you consistently provide the nutrients they need to thrive, they establish stronger, more diverse communities. When your diet lacks variety or depends heavily on processed foods, these communities may struggle to maintain the complex chemical production that supports optimal mood and mental health. As you prepare for sleep tonight, think about the conversations you had with your bacterial partners through the meals you chose today. Imagine them in the gentle darkness of your belly, working to transform your food choices into the chemicals that will influence your dreams and your mood tomorrow. And in our next chapter, we will explore how these individual bacterial voices come together to form communities as complex and interconnected as any human society, working together in ways that shape the very foundation of your emotional well-being. In the warm darkness of your belly, a complex society thrives in complete silence. Your bacterial residents do not build visible cities or pave roads, but they create communities as intricate as any human civilization. They form neighborhoods, establish territories, and engage in social interactions that would fascinate any anthropologist studying the behavior of intelligent species. These microscopic citizens organize themselves with a sophistication that mirrors human societies in surprising ways. Some bacteria cluster together in tight communities, sharing resources and protecting each other from threats. Others prefer to live as independent wanderers, moving freely through the fluid spaces of your digestive system. Still others form temporary alliances that shift and change based on environmental conditions. Imagine looking down at a city from an airplane at night. You see clusters of lights in residential areas, bright corridors along major highways, and the concentrated glow of downtown districts. Your bacterial communities organize themselves in similar patterns, creating dense populations in favorable locations and sparser settlements in more challenging territories. The bacteria that live directly against your intestinal walls form what scientists call biofilms. Think of these as bacterial apartment buildings, with multiple layers of residents stacked on top of each other. The bacteria on the bottom floor, closest to your intestinal tissue, have the most stable living conditions but also the greatest responsibilities. They help maintain the barrier that protects your body from harmful substances while allowing beneficial nutrients to pass through. These wall-dwelling bacteria produce a special glue-like substance that helps them stick together and to your intestinal lining. This glue contains proteins and sugars that create a protective matrix, like the framework of a building that keeps everyone safe inside. Within this matrix, bacteria can share nutrients, exchange genetic information, and coordinate their chemical production in ways that benefit the entire community. The bacteria living in these biofilm cities communicate constantly with their neighbors. They release chemical signals called quorum-sensing molecules, which work like a sophisticated telephone system. When enough bacteria gather in one area, they can sense their population density through these chemical messages and adjust their behavior accordingly. This bacterial communication system allows them to make collective decisions about when to reproduce, when to produce certain chemicals, and when to defend against threats. It is like a town hall meeting that happens continuously at the molecular level, with bacteria voting through chemical signals about the best course of action for their community. Different bacterial species often form partnerships that benefit everyone involved. Some bacteria specialize in breaking down complex carbohydrates, while others excel at producing vitamins. They trade the products of their specialized work like merchants in a marketplace, creating an economy based on mutual benefit rather than competition. Lactobacillus and Bifidobacterium species often work together in this way, with one creating conditions that help the other thrive. Lactobacillus produces lactic acid that creates an environment too acidic for harmful bacteria, while Bifidobacterium produces compounds that feed and support lactobacillus populations. Together, they create a more stable and beneficial community than either could maintain alone. Your bacterial residents also engage in territorial disputes that play out like microscopic border conflicts. When new bacteria arrive in your gut, established communities must decide whether to welcome them, compete with them, or actively fight against them. These decisions happen through chemical warfare, with different species producing antibiotics and other compounds designed to limit their competitors' growth. But unlike human conflicts, bacterial warfare often benefits your overall health. When beneficial bacteria successfully defend their territory against harmful invaders, they are protecting not just their own community but your entire digestive system. They are like neighborhood watch groups that keep dangerous elements from taking over and disrupting the peaceful functioning of their society. The social structure of your bacterial communities changes throughout your digestive system, like traveling through different regions of a country with distinct cultures and customs. In your stomach, only the hardiest bacterial pioneers can survive the acidic conditions, living in small, resilient communities that help prepare food for the larger populations downstream. In your small intestine, bacterial communities tend to be smaller and more specialized, focused on extracting specific nutrients as food passes by relatively quickly. These bacteria are like skilled craftspeople in small towns, each group focused on their particular expertise. But in your large intestine, bacterial society reaches its full complexity. Here, massive populations create the equivalent of metropolitan areas, with intricate social hierarchies, specialized districts, and complex networks of cooperation and competition. The slower pace of life in this region allows for more sophisticated social interactions and long-term community planning. Your bacterial citizens also demonstrate remarkable altruism, sacrificing their own immediate interests for the good of the community. Some bacteria produce compounds that benefit other species more than themselves. Others release nutrients they could use for their own growth, making them available to neighbors who might need them more urgently. This bacterial altruism extends to their relationship with you, their human host. Many of the chemicals they produce serve no direct benefit to their own survival but help maintain your health and emotional well-being. They are like civic-minded citizens who volunteer their time and resources to improve their community, understanding that a healthy environment benefits everyone in the long run. The social networks in your gut also include bacteria that serve as information brokers, gathering and sharing intelligence about conditions throughout your digestive system. These bacterial messengers travel between different communities, carrying news about food availability, pH changes, and potential threats. They help coordinate responses across your entire gut ecosystem, ensuring that distant bacterial populations can work together effectively. During times of stress or illness, your bacterial communities demonstrate remarkable solidarity. They may alter their chemical production to support struggling neighbors, share resources more freely, or work together to rebuild damaged areas of the gut lining. It is like watching a community come together during a natural disaster, with everyone contributing what they can to help their society recover. The relationships between different bacterial species in your gut can be surprisingly complex. Some pairs of bacteria cannot survive without each other, having evolved such close partnerships that they function almost like a single organism. Others maintain temporary alliances that shift based on environmental conditions, like political parties that form coalitions when it serves their mutual interests. Your bacterial society also includes what scientists call keystone species, bacteria that have disproportionate influence on the entire ecosystem despite their relatively small numbers. Like influential community leaders in human societies, these bacterial keystone species help maintain stability and cooperation throughout the gut microbiome. The remarkable thing about these bacterial social networks is how they adapt and evolve in response to your lifestyle choices. When you eat foods that support diverse bacterial communities, their social interactions become more complex and beneficial. When stress or poor nutrition disrupts these communities, their social structures may simplify or become dominated by less cooperative species. As you rest here in the quiet of this evening, imagine the bustling social life happening in the microscopic cities of your belly. Picture bacterial neighbors sharing resources, bacterial leaders coordinating community responses, and bacterial families working together to create the chemical harmony that supports your physical and emotional well-being. And tomorrow, we will explore what happens when this delicate social balance is disrupted, when the harmonious communities we have discovered face challenges that threaten their cooperative way of life. Even the most carefully tended garden can grow wild. A late frost kills the tender seedlings. Too much rain drowns the roots. Weeds spread faster than flowers. What was once a place of harmony and beauty becomes overgrown, unbalanced, struggling to remember its original design. This same transformation can happen in the bacterial garden of your gut. The delicate communities we have explored, with their intricate social networks and cooperative chemistry, sometimes fall out of balance. Scientists call this condition dysbiosis, but the name feels too distant for something so personal and profound. It is better understood as a time when your inner ecosystem loses its way. The signs of this bacterial wilderness often appear first in how you feel. Your mood may shift more easily from calm to anxious, from content to irritable. Sleep becomes elusive, slipping away just when you need it most. Digestion, once smooth and automatic, begins to feel uncomfortable, unpredictable. Your energy fluctuates like weather in an unstable climate. These changes happen because the bacterial chemists we met earlier can no longer maintain their careful production of mood-supporting compounds. When beneficial bacteria decline in number, less serotonin blooms in your intestinal garden. GABA production decreases like streams drying up in a drought. The chemical messages traveling up your vagus nerve change their tone from harmonious to discordant. Many factors can disturb this bacterial balance. Antibiotics, while sometimes necessary for fighting serious infections, act like forest fires in your gut ecosystem. They clear away harmful bacteria, but they also destroy many beneficial species that took years to establish. The bacterial cities and social networks we explored in previous chapters can be reduced to scattered survivors in a matter of days. Imagine walking through a forest after a wildfire. Blackened stumps stand where mighty trees once grew. The complex undergrowth has vanished. The intricate communities of plants and animals that depended on each other for survival have been scattered to the wind. This is what your gut microbiome may look like after a course of antibiotics. But unlike forest fires, which are natural parts of some ecosystems, antibiotic disruption creates an unnatural emptiness. In this bacterial wasteland, opportunistic species can multiply rapidly, like weeds taking over an abandoned garden. These fast-growing bacteria may not produce the beneficial compounds your body needs for optimal mood and health. Chronic stress can also push your bacterial garden toward wildness. When stress hormones flood your system for weeks or months, they create an environment where only the hardiest bacteria can thrive. The gentle, mood-supporting species that flourish in peaceful conditions begin to retreat, like shy forest creatures disappearing when their habitat becomes too hostile. Poor diet contributes to this bacterial imbalance in its own way. When your meals consist mainly of processed foods, sugar, and artificial additives, you are essentially feeding the weeds while starving the flowers. Bacteria that thrive on simple sugars multiply rapidly, crowding out the fiber-loving species that produce beneficial compounds for your brain. Think of it like feeding only fast food to a diverse community of gardeners. The specialists who know how to tend delicate herbs and medicinal plants gradually give up and move away. The remaining residents are those who can survive on junk food, but they lack the skills to create the complex chemistry your body needs for emotional balance. Sleep deprivation adds its own stress to your bacterial communities. Your gut bacteria follow circadian rhythms just as your brain does. When you consistently sleep poorly or at irregular hours, these microscopic communities become confused about when to produce which compounds. Their chemical timing becomes erratic, like musicians trying to play a symphony without a conductor. Age naturally changes your bacterial garden as well. The diverse, resilient communities of youth gradually become simpler and less stable. Some beneficial species that thrived for decades may slowly decline, while others that were barely noticeable in younger years begin to dominate. This bacterial aging may contribute to the mood changes and digestive challenges that sometimes accompany growing older. Environmental toxins can also disrupt bacterial balance. The chemicals in some cleaning products, pesticides on food, and pollutants in air and water can act like subtle poisons in your gut ecosystem. They may not kill bacteria outright, but they can weaken beneficial species while leaving harmful ones relatively unaffected. When your bacterial garden grows wild, the effects ripple outward through your entire body. Inflammation increases as beneficial bacteria produce fewer anti-inflammatory compounds. Your immune system may become confused, attacking harmless substances while missing real threats. The protective barrier of your intestinal lining may weaken, allowing substances to pass through that should remain contained. Your brain receives different messages through the gut-brain axis when bacterial balance is disturbed. Instead of reports of harmony and chemical stability, the signals flowing up your vagus nerve carry news of inflammation, imbalance, and bacterial distress. Your brain interprets these messages and responds with changes in mood, energy, and cognitive function. But here is the hopeful truth about bacterial gardens that have grown wild: they possess a remarkable capacity for restoration. Unlike some types of environmental damage that take decades to heal, your gut microbiome can begin recovering within days when the right conditions return. The bacteria that retreated during difficult times often remain present in small numbers, like seeds waiting for favorable weather. When you provide the nutrients they need, reduce stress, and eliminate the factors that caused the imbalance, these beneficial species can multiply rapidly and begin rebuilding their communities. Young bacteria reproduce every 20 minutes under ideal conditions. This means that positive changes in your diet, sleep, and stress levels can start shifting your bacterial populations almost immediately. What took months to fall out of balance can begin returning to harmony in a matter of days. The resilience of your bacterial communities reflects millions of years of evolution alongside human hosts. These microscopic partners have survived ice ages, famines, and countless other challenges by developing strategies for recovery and adaptation. They carry within their genetic code the wisdom to rebuild their societies when given the opportunity. Some bacterial species seem particularly gifted at restoration work. They are like the first colonizers who move into damaged ecosystems and begin the process of renewal. These pioneer bacteria create conditions that allow other species to return, slowly rebuilding the complex networks of cooperation and chemical production that support optimal health. Your body actively participates in this restoration process. When bacterial balance begins to return, your intestinal lining produces compounds that support beneficial bacteria. Your immune system learns to distinguish friend from foe once again. The chemical messages flowing through your gut-brain axis gradually return to their harmonious patterns. As you rest here in this quiet moment, know that your bacterial partners are working even now toward balance and harmony. Whatever disruptions they may have experienced, whatever challenges they currently face, they carry within themselves the ancient wisdom of restoration and renewal. And in our final chapter together, we will discover how you can become a conscious gardener of this inner ecosystem, learning to nurture and support the bacterial communities that work so tirelessly to maintain your health and happiness. In the gentle moments before sleep arrives, there is something beautiful about realizing that you are never truly alone. Within the quiet chamber of your body, trillions of microscopic partners work through the night, tending to your well-being with a devotion that spans generations. You are both the gardener of this inner world and the garden itself, holding the power to nurture the communities that nurture you in return. This realization transforms the simple acts of daily life into opportunities for conscious partnership with your bacterial companions. Each breath you take, each meal you choose, each moment of rest you allow yourself becomes a conversation with the ancient wisdom living in your belly. You begin to understand that caring for your microbiome is really caring for yourself in the deepest possible way. The art of bacterial gardening starts with the most basic element of life, breath. Right now, as you breathe slowly and deeply, you are activating your vagus nerve, improving the communication between your brain and gut. Each peaceful breath sends calming signals downward to your bacterial communities, like gentle rain falling on a garden after a long drought. Deep breathing does more than simply relax your mind. It changes the chemistry in your gut, creating conditions where beneficial bacteria can thrive. When you breathe with intention, you are essentially telling your bacterial partners that all is well, that they can focus their energy on producing the mood-supporting compounds that help you feel balanced and content. Sleep becomes another gift you give to your microbial garden. During the quiet hours of night, your bacterial communities follow their own circadian rhythms, timing their chemical production to support your natural cycles of rest and activity. When you honor your need for regular, restful sleep, you allow these rhythms to synchronize perfectly with your body's needs. Think of sleep as the night shift in your bacterial world. While you rest, different species take turns working, some focusing on digestion, others on immune support, still others on producing the neurotransmitters that will influence your mood when you wake. Poor sleep disrupts these carefully orchestrated schedules, but consistent, peaceful rest allows your bacterial partners to work with maximum efficiency. The food you choose becomes perhaps your most powerful tool for bacterial gardening. Every meal is an opportunity to send messages of support to the communities working so hard on your behalf. When you choose foods rich in fiber, you are essentially delivering care packages to the bacteria that produce serotonin and other mood-supporting compounds. Vegetables become love letters to your bacterial partners. The fiber in broccoli speaks to different bacteria than the fiber in apples, creating a diverse conversation that supports a wide range of beneficial species. When you eat a variety of plant foods, you are like a thoughtful host providing different types of entertainment for guests with varying interests. Fermented foods carry special significance in this bacterial gardening practice. When you eat yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, or kimchi, you are introducing new bacterial voices to your internal community. These foods are like bringing wise elders to a gathering, bacteria who carry ancient knowledge about health and balance. The timing of your meals matters as much as their content. Your bacterial communities expect nutrition to arrive at predictable intervals, allowing them to coordinate their activities with your body's natural rhythms. Regular meal times create stability in your microbial world, like the reliable seasons that allow gardens to plan their growth cycles. Stress management becomes an act of bacterial compassion. When you find ways to reduce chronic stress through meditation, gentle exercise, or simply spending time in nature, you are creating a peaceful environment where your beneficial bacteria can flourish. Stress reduction is like clearing weeds from a garden, giving the desired plants more room to grow. Movement adds its own benefits to your bacterial ecosystem. Gentle exercise increases blood flow to your digestive system, delivering more oxygen and nutrients to your bacterial communities. It also stimulates the production of compounds that support bacterial diversity, like a gardener aerating soil to help roots spread and thrive. But perhaps the most profound aspect of nurturing your inner ecosystem is learning to listen to the signals your bacterial partners send. Your gut feelings, those intuitive responses that seem to come from nowhere, may actually be communications from your microbial community. When certain foods make you feel energized while others leave you sluggish, your bacteria may be telling you what they need to do their best work. Your cravings, too, might carry bacterial wisdom. Sometimes a desire for fermented foods or fiber-rich vegetables could be your bacterial partners requesting the nutrients they need to maintain balance. Learning to distinguish between cravings driven by habit or stress and those that represent genuine biological needs becomes part of the art of bacterial gardening. The practice of mindful eating transforms meals into meditative conversations with your microbial community. When you eat slowly, chewing thoroughly, and paying attention to how foods make you feel, you create optimal conditions for digestion and bacterial activity. You also develop a deeper awareness of which foods support your bacterial partners and which might disrupt their delicate balance. Hydration plays a subtle but important role in bacterial gardening. Clean, filtered water helps maintain the proper consistency of the mucus layer that protects your intestinal walls and provides habitat for beneficial bacteria. Think of proper hydration as maintaining the irrigation system in your bacterial garden, ensuring that nutrients can flow freely to where they are needed most. Environmental toxins require gentle vigilance in your bacterial gardening practice. When possible, choosing organic foods reduces the pesticide load that can disrupt bacterial communities. Using natural cleaning products in your home protects both you and your microbial partners from chemicals that might disturb their delicate balance. The beautiful truth about bacterial gardening is that small, consistent actions create profound changes over time. You do not need to overhaul your entire life overnight. Instead, each mindful choice, each moment of stress reduction, each nourishing meal contributes to the ongoing conversation with your bacterial companions. Your bacterial partners are remarkably forgiving and resilient. When life circumstances force temporary disruptions to your bacterial gardening practice, they wait patiently for conditions to improve. They carry within their genetic memory the wisdom to restore balance when given the opportunity. This partnership between you and your microbiome is one of the most ancient relationships in biology. For millions of years, bacteria and their human hosts have evolved together, learning to support each other's survival and well-being. You are the latest participant in this timeless collaboration, carrying forward a relationship that began long before human civilization and will continue long after. As you practice the art of bacterial gardening, you may begin to notice changes in how you feel, both physically and emotionally. Your digestion may become more comfortable. Your mood may feel more stable. Your sleep may deepen. Your immune system may respond more appropriately to challenges. These improvements reflect the harmony that emerges when you and your bacterial partners work together with conscious intention. The relationship between you and your microbiome is ultimately one of mutual care and respect. You provide the nutrients, environment, and lifestyle choices that allow beneficial bacteria to thrive. In return, they produce the compounds that support your physical health, emotional balance, and mental clarity. In this quiet moment before sleep, as you breathe slowly and feel your body beginning to relax, imagine your bacterial partners settling into their nighttime rhythms. Picture them working peacefully in the warm darkness of your belly, producing the chemicals that will influence your dreams and prepare you for tomorrow's adventures. And know that with each conscious choice you make, each moment of care you extend to your inner ecosystem, you are participating in one of nature's most beautiful partnerships, a collaboration between human consciousness and microbial wisdom that creates the very foundation of your well-being. Tonight, as sleep gently takes you, rest in the knowledge that you are not alone, that you carry within yourself a universe of allies working tirelessly on your behalf, and that tomorrow offers countless opportunities to continue nurturing this remarkable relationship between your mind, your body, and the microscopic partners who help make you wonderfully, completely, uniquely you.